Monkey Bits.
Hey guys, MBG here with a look at the Warhammer Fantasy Triumph and Treachery expansion. This is the second expansion set for 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy, and I guess we're about 3 years into Warhammer Fantasy. I'm sure we'll see a 9th edition in summer of 2014, but for now we have this pretty cool expansion of how to play multiplayer games in Warhammer Fantasy, which is very interesting because it introduces allies and enemies, kind of like an friends and enemies and neutral parties, which is kind of like an ally system from 8th edition or from 6th edition 40k. So they're kind of, in my opinion, 6th edition 40k took a lot of fantasy 8th edition rules, and now it almost seems like they're taking some of them back from Warhammer to try to maybe improve fantasy, which would, I guess the general consensus is a lot of people were mad about fantasy a few years ago. I don't know how it is right now. I haven't played much of 8th, maybe 2 games myself, and I don't really know what to say about that. But anyways, this expansion looks pretty neat. If you're diehard into fantasy, this is definitely for you. It's got a nice little slip cover where it basically opens up into the expansion itself. There's a little preview of kind of what you get, the Triumph and Treachery book, some Treachery and player turn cards, as well as the victory tokens, which kind of keep track of your in normal games of 8th edition or of fantasy, it's easy to keep track of your victory points and things like that, but with this it's a little bit more difficult. So they introduced your token things here. So obviously you can tell I've opened this up and already bookmarked some pages, but here's the rule book itself. Obviously very well done, hardcover, very nice. It clocks in at about, I think, 100 and some pages. What was it? Yeah, about right around 100 pages or so. Also in this set, now let's see if we can get this in the frame here. Obviously, this is all like a kind of like a cardboard punch card kind of set. It's not super like cheesy or anything. It's nicely done, but it's not like super collector quality or anything like that. In this sack here, it's got all of your victory tokens and things like that to keep track of your actual victory points throughout the game, and each one has values, and I'll show you in the book here where they assign all the values and things like that. So it's it's kind of cool, something different. They're trying something different, and I think it's going to get a lot of people excited about the game again. Here are your Treachery. These are player turn cards here, which is basically how you set the initiative for the multiplayer games. Obviously, you can't tell which one's which there. But regardless of who you're playing, you just pick one of these cards, and that's your player card, and then you kind of shuffle the deck, and you flip one to see who goes first for each turn, which is kind of cool. And then, of course, there's a stack of Treachery cards with all sorts of fun and exciting ways to get over on your friends / enemies and stab them in the back to try to secure a victory in this format. Onto the book itself. Zoom in here a little bit. Alright. So very, very nicely done book that we've come to expect from Warhammer Fantasy. They were the originators of the hardcover format and continue to do well by it. Here's the contents of the book. You got a brief intro, another more brief intro kind of explaining the premise of the book, your basic rules section and scenarios, and then it goes into roughly 60 pages of fluff on 3 specific battles, which of course are all very well known. At least I think these 2 are. I'm not too familiar with this one here, but these 2 I've definitely heard of. So let's take a look. Obviously the introduction section there, Treacherous Times. It's the Grimdark of the Far Past. Let's see. Alright, so here's the rules section here, which basically gives you an overview of kind of how everything works. And like I was saying, they introduce into this the idea of friends and enemy players. So determining the turn order, like those player turn cards I just showed you, you just kind of flip them around and do that every turn. The interesting thing was neutral units. Like you basically pick through using these player turn cards who you're allowed to attack each turn, which is kind of an interesting concept. And then it also, and of course you can't shoot them and you can't engage them in assault and you can't cast magic on them. But if you're actually in the close combat phase with 2 different, with somebody that isn't who your enemy is, then you're allowed to attack them. But if you're in combat with 2 different types of units, one of them you basically don't attack and you attack the other one. So it can kind of get convoluted. I think combat in fantasy always seem to be the most convoluted and confusing thing. But there's lots of rules in here, and I'm sure it'll sort itself out. I mean, most people get along when playing fantasy that I've seen, but you know, maybe your experience is different. Here's the victory tokens, where basically values for each one, and that's also how you keep track of your points. Because you got so, you know, it's hard to, it's like, hey, you know, hey Ralph, how many of your stuff did I kill? Hey Jason, how much of your stuff did I kill? When you're dealing with, you know, each person has 2,000-3,000 points worth of stuff, then it can get kind of silly. So it's good that everybody has their own set of victory tokens to try to keep track of that. Now you go in increments here, so it's kind of weird. Like, you know, if you go over, but you say you're between 50 and 100 victory points, you just kind of lose them. You know, it's like Superman 3. You can't round up the cents and buy a Ferrari and drive it to work or anything like that. So you got to really plan out accordingly, because you don't want to leave any points on the table there, I wouldn't imagine. Kind of explaining the treachery cards here in this section. There's also a mercenary section, which is kind of interesting, because they talk about Dogs of War in the front, which really hasn't seen much love in a long time. And then, of course, there's a mercenary loyalty table there to try to, you know, keep your ranks in line. So that was very interesting to read there. And there's 3 new missions, just basic missions with different deployment zones, staggering deployment zones, before they get into the 3 main battles that I was talking about. And there's the first one. They're all about 20 pages long, give or take. So we got the first one there. You know, it's very, very well done book. I mean, it's got lots of pictures of armies battling each other, lots of new artwork, you know, characterettes and things like that. So that was pretty cool to see. And then the Death in the Valley of Corpses. Ooh, that looks super scary, huh? And then we've got the last battle, which is semi-favorite famous one, the Battle of Sundered Peak, where the Skaven actually look like they get a fog machine, a crazy green glowing fog machine. But I guess there's a party on that side of the battlefield there. All right, so in the very back there's a summary, just to kind of help you keep track of all the different mechanics and new things, and a quick reference. A nice little leaflet there, and into the back artwork and the rear cover. So that's pretty much it. 7 minutes and a quick little preview / review of the book. Definitely, if you play fantasy with multiple players on a weekly basis, you might want to think about picking this up. I think MSRP is $85, which, you know, isn't too bad considering all the cool stuff you get, and a nice little box set to contain all your things. Definitely seems like they're working towards something here. Maybe something in 2014, maybe some new game mechanics. Well, we'll see how it goes. I'm MBG Rob Bear. Thanks for watching my video review of the newest expansion for Warhammer Fantasy.
Spiky Bits.